All right, thanks for joining us. And we are joined by the Honest Four. This is the Honest Hour. We've got Tyson Kliem, agent in Langley, covers the Fraser Valley. We've got Norm Hiller, Vancouver East, covers Vancouver and Burnaby and other parts as well. We've got EJ Bugayong in Richmond, covers Richmond, Vancouver, and other parts. And myself, Christian B. here in Burnaby. Just like the other gentlemen, have license, will travel. Okay. Now, moving to today's topic, this is an interesting one, is we see the number of realtors. I wanted to throw this one out to you guys. This is kind of like a little mini brainstorming session between us and kind of a sharing war stories session, I guess you could call it. The number of realtors is not growing, hasn't grown in the last 4 years. About 3-4 years ago, we hit the point of 15,000 realtors licensed through the Greater Real Estate Board of Vancouver, and that number really hasn't grown in 4 years. And I recall from 2015 to 2020, there was a huge jump. It seemed like every third person I talked to wanted to become a realtor. That, by the way, is when you know the market has peaked. When
Yeah.
when you're meeting people in coffee shops, oh yeah, I'm getting my real estate license. You know the market has probably gotten to the peak. I talked to a couple of clients that year that were decided to jump in and get their real estate license. Lo and behold, they did, and they found it was a real tough industry. I mean, it's a bit of a boot camp, as we have all found out in our years in the business. I wanted to throw it out to you guys. Maybe just before we do that, Tyson, here, the numbers have been about 15,000 for the last several years. What is it looking like in the Fraser Valley?
Yeah, so Fraser Valley, I have some of the stats here right in front of me. So the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board in 2022, December 2022, had 6,500 members approximately. And then as of November 2023, had 5,148, so 5,148. So that's a reduction in what is that, like 1,400 realtors or so, or yeah, 1350 or so. It's a lot. It's a big reduction. And we've seen out here in the Fraser Valley. And now the market probably has cooled off considerably compared to Vancouver during that time. But we can talk about what that looks like here in a second and why I think so.
Well, I was just curious, and I thought, oh, what's causing this? And I thought, is the first question that comes to mind, is the business harder today than it was 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or going back even further? Norm, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think every time the market goes crazy and everything is selling in multiple offers in 1 week, yes, everybody wants to sign up to be a realtor. And you know what? Frankly put, I mean, it is easier in those times, especially if you're well prepared. I mean, if you're getting everything ready, strata documents, everything's there in one package, you literally have 1 week. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to show the home. You know, when we moved out of downtown in 2016, I told other clients, I said, look, the market's insane. Your home is going to sell in a week. If you can't keep it clean, go get a hotel, go on vacation. Like, you don't need to be here. You don't need the stress of the showings. It will sell in a week. And, you know, it was a lot easier at that time. The extra paperwork, you know, when the market is a lot tougher, you can show a home 30 times and, you know, be working on the third offer or fourth offer and it's falling apart again because of financing. So yes, it is a lot harder, you know, these days. It is going to turn around again. Is it going to be as easy as it was 2-3 years ago? I don't know. At some point, likely. But I mean, there's so much more paperwork and disclosures and everything all the time that we're having to do.
Norm, how much do you think that paperwork has increased over the last like 5, 10 years? Because I'm relatively new, so for me, it's
Yeah.
I'm coming into it with that. But I know for you've mentioned that before. How many times do you think the paperwork has increased compared to
I,
before?
it's about tripled since I started in 2010. And I would say in the last 5 years, it's doubled again, maybe five,
Yeah,
6 years. Yeah.
lots of new disclosures, new different forms we have to fill out for.
Yeah. And I mean, even the last one where now with FINTRAC, we have what, 12, 15 questions.
It's a lot of questions.
We were never briefed on this. The real
No.
estate boards got an email from Canadian Real Estate Association, but we have still have yet to be briefed on it.
Norm, just if you can explain, what is FINTRAC?
FINTRAC is our anti-money laundering requirements. So we're supposed to find out where the funds are coming from, not accepting any cash. We have to report on our client, like, a few details. But they've now asked us like 12 or so new questions, things like, is the client within 10 kilometers of an international border or within 5 kilometers from an airport? Another question is, in your geographical area, is money laundering a concern? Well, isn't it a concern everywhere in Canada? I mean, these are such vague questions. What does this even mean? And the distance, is this as the bird flies straight across, or is this as per Google Maps? I mean, nobody really knows. So the government makes all these gray areas. They love making the gray areas.
Yeah.
EJ, how about you? How are you finding the business, let's say now versus 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think especially since 5 years ago, where our market's definitely kind of been like that, especially in this past year, it's really kind of you felt it as a realtor, those different kind of the different types of markets. So um, people who are kind of brand new and kind of went into that peak market and you were able to get some listings, like you did great. But as kind of Norm mentioned, as soon as it kind of turned and it was a lot harder, and if you didn't do a good job with your previous clients, or if you didn't provide value to your clients, last year could have been a very tough year. And it was a tough year for a lot of realtors, but it's not as easy as it kind of looks. And I was kind of one of those people when I kind of joined. I'm like, oh, I invested in a few properties. I can do this, no problem. Everybody's just going to come and call me. And that first year was a rude awakening for sure. So luckily, we kind of built the business up over time, and it's done very well. But yeah, it can be it can be quite challenging for sure.
What do you wish, EJ, you had known before you got into the business?
I
If you could
think,
go talk to your younger self.
honestly, I think the biggest thing is I kind of made the decision as in, like, I'm an investor. I've done a couple of things. I can do it. I didn't ask anybody else. I didn't ask another realtor what they thought. I just signed up and I did it, which was kind of crazy when you look at it, because I didn't really know what it fully entailed. All I knew was I saw an open house on a weekend. I saw it selling on Monday or Tuesday. So I'm like, I could do that. And definitely was not like that at all. Yes, you see, things on social media and people posting, but there's just so much more to it. And 15,000 realtors in the greater Vancouver area, although it is quite a bit, and it hasn't grown this last few years. It's because there's a reason why. Is because it is kind of challenging to be a realtor and to kind of make it. And I don't know, I might be butchering the stat, but it's something like, what is it? 50% of realtors in that first year don't make it. And then from that 50% who made it, another 50% don't make it after the next 5 years or something like that. So yeah, it's a tough industry, but if you can make it and provide some good value to your clients, it can be a very rewarding job.
I think that's a great, you threw out some really good numbers here. And I recall when I first got in the business in 2015, the magic number was 87%. This was from NAR, the National Association of Realtors in the United States. Their numbers or surveys showed 87% of realtors were out of the business within about 18 months to 2 years.
Wow.
That's astounding. And I think it's, it kind of reminded me of the weather map when the weatherman comes on TV and he's got the hurricane map, and you got the eye of the hurricane, and that's kind of the 20% of realtors who are always in the business, and then the cloud formation around the eye, that's the people coming in, going out, coming in, going out. And for one reason or another, maybe they don't have the plan, they didn't save up the money. I know, Tyson, you were saying this, you were talking about money, the type of money you need to get maybe to get started, get rolling.
And it's the like the 20-80 rule too. Like 20% of the realtors do 80% of the work, right? Like when you really think about it, and so then that leaves 20% for the rest of the 80% to pick and grab at. but yeah, the expenses. So I just got licensed recently, and I couldn't imagine, as somebody's coming in from another industry into this, the amount of money you have to shell out when it comes to like your schooling, when it comes to like, and if you have a mortgage or your daily expenses, you still got to save up for that. And then just your different licensing dues you got to pay out, and it takes a while for you to actually get your license, before you can actually start practicing real estate. And so I always tell people, because I've met with a number of people who saw it, I got in, they go, "Oh, I want to get in too." And I say, "Hey, you have to have a good like 6 months or more saved up just because, just to get your license." But then a new licensee will not necessarily make a sale for another number of months because now you got to build this whole pipeline and all these things. So I have the fortunate part that my wife's been in the industry for a while, and so I can jump on board and support her in it. But it is not for the faint of heart, when you got daily expenses. And I think that's what happens to a lot of realtors as they jump in. They think it's going to be quick, easy money, and they realize how difficult it is. And the things I'm learning about it is that you're not just writing a contract. Writing a contract's easy. You can write up a contract tomorrow and no problem. It's managing client expectations. It's trying to get them on the same side and say, hey, the other people on the other side are not the enemy. Like they're making well-informed decisions and trying to figure out what's best for them as well. And so there's a lot of managing, you got a lot of mediation you got to do. So there's a lot more skills and soft skills involved in this than what people may think. And just a little side thing before I shut up here, is that I don't know if a lot of realtors also understand the liability that is involved in real estate, and that you can set yourself up for lawsuits, and just even how you advise clients and how you, put things together. And so just making sure that there's all those different factors involved with the cost, with the, soft skills, with liability, and all those factors combined. I think that's why you see such a turnover in the industry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can you,
But
Spicy, can you just expand on soft skills, what you mean by that, what that looks like?
Yeah, so soft skills are the things that, are hard to learn from a textbook. You gotta, emotional intelligence, a lot of those pieces where, knowing how to read people, and listening well, a lot of active listening, to be able to help somebody get from point A to point B and all the steps in between, to, when it comes to actually buying a house. Some people might be scared about actually wanting to move forward in a place because they're going, this is a big investment. But you're looking at it, and your job as a realtor, I think, is to take all the emotion out of it, for yourself, and look at it objectively and go, this is a good decision. This is probably the best decision you can make out of all the variables and all the other factors that are before you. And I'm here to stand by your side, to handhold you in this, to walk with you and say, this is a good decision, for you to be able to make. And this is not coming from a place of emotion, a place of just my gut or heart. It's actually coming looking at all the data, the experience that you have, knowing the industry better than your average, um, yeah, I
mhm.
can't think of an analogy of names, Joe and Larry, whatever, or Susie, whatever it is. And, yeah, do that.
Tyson, I think you're absolutely right. You have to know how to work with analytical buyers, emotional buyers.
Yeah.
You have to take that all out of the equation. It's all about, taking a step back, laying everything out for them and thinking outside the box. This is an option. And maybe if we increase the price here, it'll get you closer to, you won't have to commute as much. It'll actually save you time and money. Maybe this should be an option as well. There's so much of thinking like that outside the box, and a lot of home buyers, they're, you know, focused in narrowly, and there's a lot of psychology involved in it as well. I think people who take extra psychology courses, it's really going to help them as well. Another thing I wanted to mention too is it's quite comical actually. You see all these new realtors get into the business. They have 1 year of, yeah, they made a lot of money. The market was crazy. They buy a new computer, they buy a new car, they
Yeah.
lease it actually. All these expenses add up, and then the market turns, and they are so it is incredibly negative cash flow. I mean, they're just hemorrhaging money left, right, and center, and they're hungry to do some deals, and it's tough. And it's you're running a business. It needs to be slow, consistent growth, planning financially ahead, because there will be a lot of market swings. up and down, and things will stall out. And every November, December, it usually slows down, and you have to be prepared for this. And then you also have
Yeah.
to be prepared for the taxes, end of the year, and oops, forgot to save. Meanwhile, you just bought a couple of luxurious items and oops, didn't plan ahead.
I was doing my budget about 3 weeks ago, and I run a pretty lean ship, and I looked at my budget and I realized I spend on the business probably about $5,000 a month, give or
Yeah.
take, but about 5K a month, and I'm frugal. I'm very frugal.
You are.
And I just thought about if you're not sitting down and really doing the numbers. What's that?
He is frugal. He eats my toast when we have breakfast.
Right. Right. Well, if someone's got to eat it.
Smart.
So
I'll agree with Tyson. I've seen it.
so the point is here, that's if you're not doing a sale in a single year, that's $60,000 of income
Yeah.
gone, right? So you just got to make $60,000 to tread water here.
And Christian, yeah, you're saying that's baseline. Like if you bring in a unlicensed assistant or any other things, like you're like, and that's what we always tell people where they get wide-eyed and you see the whites of their eyes when they're interested in getting in. I'm like, yeah, the initial cost for you to run your business for years anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 a year, depending on what things you do within it. And that's not without paying yourself a salary.
Right. That's without factoring in your mortgage, right? Food expenses and so on, which is going to be, $2,000-$3,000 more for most families anyway. So you should be able to see right off the bat, like if you hit the first 6 months and your bank account's going like this, right? I often joke that in real estate, you're kind of working by faith in many ways, right? Because you're hoping things come together. You're hoping that relationship with that buyer is strong enough and that they're going to be mentally strong enough that they're not, if they lose out on one or two multiple offers, they're not going to just fall by the wayside.
Yeah. And that's where I think you run into it a lot of times. Going on another little run, and I don't know if you want to go into this, but when people question you about your commission and the commission you make on it, they go, well, I'm seeing this big number here that you're making off of this sale, and the things that they don't account for is the amount of hours and man hours you're doing behind the scenes, because they go, oh, well, I saw that you just sold the house within a week and it wasn't that really easy. And I'm going, no, we're putting about 100 man hours or more, like I don't know, whatever, that's just an estimate of time just into that one specific file. But then there's your taxes, there's all these other expenses you got to shell out in the meantime, and so you're not actually collecting a massive amount of huge payday check at the end of it.
I think that's a great point. Tyson. I want to jump in there, Norm. And that I don't know who it was, but they're taking a taxi and they said they were talking to the cabbie, and the cabbie said, "Hey, you guys sell the home in 1 week. That's so easy. I'm going to get my real estate license too." And it's typical, right? And what they don't realize, and I remember this is a listing I had in Killarney, Vancouver East, and we did sell it in about a week. It was about 8 or 9 days, but it also took me about 8 months to get to the point where we hit that week and we hit the ground running. And I remember, building up the relationship with him took quite some time. He was very hesitant at first. Then as we got to know each other, going out for lunch, and I must have stopped by his place 4, 5, 6 times through the spring, the summer, and early fall as he was getting ready, and doing some landscaping and doing some painting around the house and fixing up the carport. And he was doing all these kinds of improvements, and he wanted my genuine feedback on it. Like, does this help? Does this hurt? Does this matter? But it took 8 months to get to that week. And I think it's what folks see is they see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the iceberg underneath.
That's right.
I think a lot of it's self-inflicted too. Realtors are always posting sold in 3 days, sold in 7 days, and showing off the house with their car on the side, and then oops, got their watch in the photo too. And a lot of it's self-inflicted, and it kind of makes me cringe. I've tried to change my posts, and I've actually really realized, hey, we need to appreciate our clients. You have to realize they're canceling out sometimes or adjusting their evening plans you know, they were going to cook dinner and now they need to cook dinner later or go out. They need to quickly clean the house. There's an awful lot of work that our clients are doing as well behind the scenes.
It's a great
And
point.
a lot of realtors are not seeing that, not acknowledging it, not appreciating it. And I think realtors really need to appreciate that and acknowledge that our clients are actually doing a lot of this stuff too. They're fully invested in it, as are a lot of realtors. When we're paying for things without a paycheck, they may cancel the listing, go with someone else.
Yeah.
So we're invested, they're invested, and it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work for the sellers too. So I think a lot of it's self-inflicted, you know, with what realtors are showing. We're supposed to have this aura of being successful and, you know, being successful and selling something quickly, but at the same time, it does bring, you know, the wrong image toward us as well.
Yeah, that's
EJ,
what people
other
don't
thoughts on that?
factor.
No, I think everything you guys kind of mentioned, I kind of share, you know, similar thoughts. It's, I kind of mentioned, it's just it's basically just not what you kind of think when you're trying to kind of get into the business. You know, during the peak time of the market, we get a lot of calls saying, "Oh, I want to be a realtor," and you know, we try to let them know as much as possible. I'm actually appreciate those calls because then I kind of give them some information. But yeah, it's a great profession. Don't get me wrong. It's great to help people and to, you know, help them with one of the biggest decisions that they'll make in their lifetimes. But it's definitely a bit of a roller coaster. And, you know, if you can make it and get past those first few years, it can be very rewarding and, you know, take care of your family and whatnot. But yeah, it does take some time, and, you know, you don't just kind of hop in and then that first year you're all good to go and you're not putting all those sold in 1 week on your post right away kind of thing. It takes time. It takes time for sure.
Yes, it's kind of taking the glamour out of it, right? Like, it's and helping people see a realistic view of it. Where it's like, I used to always think lawyers were suits, right? Like you see the show Suits, and you see all these like really good-looking guys and gals who are working in the industry, and they got these nice, expensive suits. Most lawyers I've met, and no knock on lawyers, but they seem like did they do their hair this morning, or like they just seem a little bit more disheveled. Like I remember seeing one lawyer had a bottle of Pepto-Bismol on his desk. And I'm just going like, this is not the picture of Suits or Mad Men that you expect to see from lawyers. And it's the same thing for realtors. It's not selling sunset every day. Like, and in fact, when you look at selling sunset, you do a deep dive into that, and you go like, do you know how many properties one of those realtors would sell in selling sunset? It's like one a year.
Mhm.
It's they're actors who are hired to do a show that's about real estate. It's not actually I don't know, a true reflection on the market in the industry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but when I first got started, I had a bit of a dry spell. I mean, I didn't sell a lot at all, and I went into debt, and I looked at my finances and I thought, you know, I have to make this work.
yeah,
Because if I go back to my last job where I was making good money, um, you know, it would take me 2 years of commuting to work, coming home, cooking my own food, not doing anything, not going out, going to sleep, next day again, going to work, coming home, not doing anything. It would have taken me 2 years to pay the debt off. So, you know, a lot of realtors are in that position. I agree. It's a great industry, but it's very volatile and people need to plan ahead.
we all had hair before jumping into the industry. And Norm, I don't know how you've held on to yours, but good job.
Yeah.
Those hair plugs are paying off.
I think, you know, just getting back to how challenging it can be. I was talking to one of the managing brokers at OAKWYN, and she said that they did onboard 100 realtors, which is excellent for OAKWYN, and then obviously a very growing young brokerage that's growing. Now they also lost 40, and she said most of the people who left left the business. It wasn't that they went to another broker, just left. So interesting, and I think that. Yeah, I think we talked about the money. We talked about the length of time it can take to build up a relationship and the amount of paperwork now that you deal with. I think I've always found that the hardest part is getting the clients, right? And with any business, really, it's about the heartbeat of the business is getting clients, right? And then of course you have to demonstrate and provide value because they've got to get results that means something to them.
Mhm.
And I've always thought that our industry is really, we're much more educators than anything else. You know, it's like when you go on Amazon and you're buying a book and they have all those reviews, right? And it gives you more insight into that book, what people think about it. And I've thought as a realtor, it's very much the same thing. Like you're sitting down with them, you're going over the numbers with them, you're going over special levies with them. You know, all those surprises that can catch them off guard. Okay, if you're going to change your mortgage or you're going to pay a cancellation fee, that can cost you $27,000, right? People don't know this kind of stuff. I had a
Mhm.
friend of mine who, in my running club, who very first purchase, this wasn't with me, it was prior, as some over a decade ago, didn't know about a cancellation penalty. And I guess he had gotten his mortgage by walking straight into the bank and doing it through a financial advisor. It wasn't explained to him, or he didn't ask, and found out he had to pay a $14,000 penalty, which was a hit to him. So, you know, there's lots of things like that. I think where we can really provide that value to the clients. They just don't know.
Mhm. I think one huge thing that is said when, a lot of people, they say, oh, I want to become a realtor. Oh, it must be nice. You get to set your own hours. I tend to stop people right there. And,
Yeah.
people always say, oh, but, you're owning a business, you set your own hours. Absolutely not. For instance, I'm trying to set up a buyer tour for a client for yesterday. We went out. I sent out a bunch of showing requests for on Friday. One realtor didn't even get back to me. I messaged him on Monday, find out he's on holidays. Can you book a showing the next week? I'm on holidays right now. You're not going to be successful. Your clients are not going to be successful. You're not going to sell homes if you don't give it your all. It's not you're on your own schedule. It's evenings, weekends, it's throwing your family under the bus, throwing yourself under the bus. You need to find a balance. You can't do it all the time. You have to find someone to partner with to, go on vacation, things like that. But the more times you confirm showings, the more showings you do, the more listing appointments you go to, you're going to be successful. But if you have this, mentality of, oh, I get to set my own hours, you're probably going to fail. It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way.
Hmm.
And you
Well
got to
said.
build the business to a point then where you can then get to a point where you are able to kind of set your hours because you're so busy, or you can scale it or whatnot. But
Mhm.
you're right. Like it's not something. If you go into it with the mindset of an employee, like I'm going to get my day off, or I'm going to get this and all that sort of stuff, it's like, sorry, I don't think you're going to survive in it. Like it's great, and those are I'm a big believer that you need to have a day off in your week and all that, but that day off may change every week because of what files and things you're working on, and that's how you gotta roll.
And
Guys,
that's when you
what
get
is
busy,
something
when you
new?
go on, sorry, when you go on vacation, that's when the phone rings.
Yes, that's when you sell houses.
What is something new that you're trying in your business right now to get business?
I'm doing a lot more client appreciation. Like I'm giving more thank you gifts and recognizing, that the sellers are putting a lot of effort in as well. So I'm doing more gifts and, helping people out and stuff like that. So I find people are very appreciative of that and understanding.
Jay.
Jay?
Yeah, I kind of have my systems that I kind of always do, but I'm not the best on social media, so I'm just trying to be a bit more out there on social media and definitely doing things like this, just to kind of, educate uh, my clients and just people out there, just to kind of help them out because real estate is quite complex, and I like to kind of share my thoughts and everything. And as you guys kind of know, there are some realtors who are out there for just the money, but it's always nice to kind of, switch that up and just kind of show what it's really like out there and to provide some, honest advice.
Well said.
Yeah, social media for me is my Instagram reels. Just and doing it a different way where it's not your conventional property walkthrough, but it's bring some humor into it. I'm a funny guy. That's the way I connect with people, and so if I can make things kind of funny and more experiential than necessarily just this is a property A, B, and C, but make it more of a fun thing. That's something I'm just trying out this year, experimenting with it, and it seems to be getting some traction, which is nice.
Sure, sure. And I'm doing some seminars these days. I'm doing more seminars first-time buyer seminars, and I like that because I like the public speaking angle and the education
Yeah.
angle. You know, having been a teacher before, so it's just a lot of fun to do it in person. I like what we're doing here through Zoom as well, which is something new. But I've always liked the personal connection. Right? I always feel when we're on Zoom like this, it gives me a feel like it's a little bit like the Brady Bunch, right? You know. Anyway, so that is where we are. Guys, I have nothing further I was going to ask you for today. And if anyone else want to add something? We're good. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being here, eh? And and if you're watching, dear viewer, thanks. Hopefully you got some value of it, especially if you're thinking about a career in real estate. I think you'll get a little bit something here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.